Oh my gosh. Every time it's a Friday and I get to see Tony Beall's beautiful, smiling, intelligent face, I'm like, woohoo, Fundraisers Friday.
I feel the same way. I'm laughing, Julia, because we always connect before the show in the green room. But today we needed like another 20 minutes in the green room because our producer Kevin is like, okay, let's get this show going.
I know he was. Our producers like, come on, kids, we're going live. And then Tony and I are like, but wait, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it's a journey. And Kevin Pace, our executive producer, has the patience of a saint. But yeah, he is our overlord, I must say. So anyway, well, it is Fundraisers Friday. And we're talking about something kind of interesting, the egg or the basket. And this has all to do with the issues of revenue, how we diversify, what that even looks like. So this is going to be a robust conversation, and I cannot think of a better person to have this conversation with than the amazing Tony Beall of Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy. Hey, we have amazing partners with us, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Crescent Cares, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, of course, Fundraisers Friday, and JMT Consulting. Again, I'm Julia C. Patrick of the American Nonprofit Academy, joined, as always, every Friday with Mr. Tony Beall. Woohoo, Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy. Tony, it's so much fun to be on this journey with you, and something that we have done that's I'm really proud of is that we work together to co-author The Architecture of Fundraising. It's available on Amazon, $19.99. It's a great tool, something I wish I had as a community fundraiser starting as many as 40 years ago. It would have helped me a lot, and I would have raised millions more for my community. And I know this to be true. So this book is really important to me personally, because I'm hoping that it changes the trajectory of another community somewhere.
And I agree with you 100% in that, Julia, as I really hope, as I do with the show every Friday, hope that it empowers folks that are working in this space, giving them permission perhaps to think differently, giving them permission to advocate for themselves, because we talk about that in the book. And today's topic actually comes from Pillar 3, Structuring Success, of the book. So chapter 15, The Egg or the Basket. So yeah, I'm proud of it too. And I really feel like when you sit down with it, you're having a conversation with a trusted friend.
Yeah, I do too. Well, let's get into that chapter a little bit more and expand upon what you see when it comes to revenue diversification. Say that quickly 3 times. What does this even mean?
Oh, Julie, I'm laughing. I had to talk a month or so ago, and I was at the podium, and I couldn't get the word philanthropy to come out. And I had to laugh because I said to the audience, I said, I must say the word philanthropy 100 times a day. Okay. And now that I'm at the podium in front of you, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So it just would not even come out. So so what is nonprofit revenue diversification? It is making sure that you have more than one, perhaps more than 2, perhaps more than 3 revenue streams for your organization. And that is going to vary on the organization, on the mission, on the community. So again, I want folks to kind of look at this with the freedom of knowing that it's meant to be organic, in that it can be created in what makes sense for your organization and for the way in which your community supports philanthropy. But it really is all about making sure that you have multiple revenue streams. So if in fact one of them disappears completely, you're not scrambling to continue your programs and services for the community. So that's really what diversification of fundraising streams is all about. It's making sure that you have many lanes in which you are in fact raising money to support your mission.
You know what? I have to say, I love that you started off this conversation with understanding where you are in your community and what it is you're doing. I've never heard anyone talk about revenue diversification to that extent. And I really think it's important to realize that this is not like a hard, fast rule. We're going to get into some percentages in just a minute, but this really does, it can vary and it should vary depending upon where you are in the life cycle of your organization, and to your point, your mission, your community. So I think this is really important. I mean, a really good starting point. So thank you for kind of setting the stage for us. So we have a sample plan, and again, we use the word sample. This doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for every organization, right?
Correct.
It's really interesting. The thing that jumps out to me, and I think oftentimes we talk about this in fundraising, is that individual giving really should be that number one center or structure for giving, for where your revenue is coming in.
In most scenarios, it absolutely should be the larger percentage of the pie is annual. I'm sorry, individual. I was thinking about annual giving, but yeah, individual giving.
Individual giving, yeah. So that means everything from somebody that is working with you on a one-time year-end gift, attending an event where they write their check or they give you their debit card number, or somebody that's actually doing a monthly sustaining giving program, right?
For sure. And there's what was also on my mind, Julia, is reminding folks of the Giving USA report that comes out annually. Yeah. And you'll see in that Giving USA report that the largest percentage of funds given to organizations is in fact from individual donors. So you can also, when you have created your plan and you know kind of what that diversification looks like, you can also sort of compare that to the Giving USA report to see how that does or doesn't support kind of what the national average or trend looks like.
Yeah, smart. That's really wise. Because if you're you're an organization and you're just trying to figure this out, it can be really frightening to be like, oh my gosh, we don't even know what these numbers are. We should. And then you get these numbers and then you're like, okay, now what do we do? Where do we live within the 1.8 million nonprofits that are hopefully tracking the same data?
Sure.
Interestingly enough, the next aspect we have are grants coming in at around 20%. I think a lot of times newer nonprofits that are in formation, or maybe just generally people looking at understanding where their revenue diversification can land, think that this is a higher number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a little dicey because these grant issues flow, they ebb and flow.
Yeah, and there was a time period where I don't have the statistics, so I'm going off of my gut. Mm-hmm. But I believe that there were more grant opportunities maybe 10 years ago than there are now. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that there are fewer dollars being distributed through grants. I just think the grant process has changed, and where foundations, whether they be family, private, community, may have had a long list of issues in which they would support, they too have kind of whittled that down to a smaller list of issues.
Yeah.
So where you may have done grant research in the past and had 40 to 50 grant opportunities to support your mission, you may only have now 15 to 20 that would support your mission. The other thing that younger nonprofits in their kind of first 5 years, they will focus on, and their board will say, well, there's got to be a grant for that. There's got to be a grant for that. A lot of times those grants are going to require you to either match the funds, to have a certain amount of money in the bank, to have kind of proof of concept in that you've been providing these services for a certain number of years.
Right.
So I say that for folks that might be in that 1 to 5 year with their nonprofit organization. Uh, don't get discouraged if there aren't a lot of grants available for you right now, because your organization is going to need to mature a bit before folks are going to want to invest at those higher grant levels.
I hear this all the time. I'm so delighted that you brought this up, because that 3 to 5 year mark, most funders will require you to surpass that before they'll even talk to you, that you must have been in service and have the data to prove, as you said, proof of concept. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. Let's talk about program and earned revenue. I think a lot of times, especially nonprofits, I've even seen nonprofits that have been working for decades that don't truly understand the aspect of what this revenue can look like. Can you explain how this actually works or should work?
Yeah, so some organizations have moved to kind of sliding scale for their services. So perhaps historically they were able to provide all of their services at no cost to the community.
Right.
Pardon me. But as inflation or just prices increase, that's if donations decrease based on grants or individual giving, again, lots of different scenarios.
Right.
They have had to move to some type of sliding scale model in order to continue to support the community. I don't know, Julia, if it's within program and earned revenue, if you're also thinking about things like micro enterprises, or if that is a totally different kind of lane. So I'd love to explore that with you. Would you think that micro enterprises fall within this, or is that just a completely different animal?
No, I think it should be completely different. And the reason why I say that is really predicated upon the issue of financial reporting and accounting, because you're going to have revenue, but you're going to have different costs associated with that. So for example, let's pick out the topic or the micro enterprise, such as a cafe, or possibly even a let's say
thrift stores.
Yeah. We both said thrift store at the same time, right? Yeah. So that will have its own situation to manage, right? In terms of accounting. So I think this is a really important thing that you brought up, is how do we take that revenue and then we pull it across to how it's going to actually need to work. So undoubtedly, I think that you brought up something that's really good and also very current, because I think a lot of boards are putting pressure onto our nonprofits to have some sort of enterprise activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know of a local arts organization that has a gallery, and so they're selling the artwork either created by their members or sometimes by the community that they serve.
Yeah, that's a great idea or example. Okay, so then we have corporate support, that should be about 15%, and then events. This is only at 15%. I think this is going to shock a lot of nonprofits that are like, what? That's 80%. Well, that is way too risky. I think it's taking too much energy. We were talking in the green room. You were just at a big event last night. These are kind of the things that will help you understand where your budgets can live and where those different scenarios should be kind of reevaluated, if you will. So
for sure.
Really interesting. And then we got to move it along because we have other things, but I wanted to also bring out endowment draw at 10%. Now, not everybody's going to have an endowment, but I would love for more nonprofits in this country to start realizing that this is, especially with the great wealth transfer that's going on, these are funds and revenues that are going to become more realistic. And so what does that look like? I think that for a lot of organizations, this is a fantasy, right? Like, oh my God, 10% of our revenue could come from endowment draw. Wow. Let's get there, baby.
It's fantasy, but it's also like, who's got time for that? So,
Yeah.
because it's a bit of a different mindset. It's a whole different set of kind of standards and
Yeah.
processes compared to some of the other things that we've talked about.
Absolutely. But don't, I wanted to put that in there, Tony, because I
I'm
just
glad you
think
did.
it can be, and it should be something to look at. Okay. So we just talked about this revenue mix.
Mm-hmm.
We picked it apart. We illuminated it. We're like, you can do it. You shouldn't do it. All that. So what the heck is going on? Who figured this out? Who's given us this roadmap?
Right. No,
Go ahead,
exactly. And
Tony.
yeah, the who, and when we were talking about this in the green room, we talked about the who, but then we talked about, the what. So you really need the data to help support these decisions. So we talked about technology, data collection, but you need good data to help you understand how to diversify your revenue stream and what that mix should look like.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding what the mix looks like currently will help you determine what the mix needs to look like in the future. Now, I would say that the first kind of round of putting this together would reside within the development team. That the
Okay.
development team should be the ones that look at the diversification. They look at individual donors. Okay, what percentage is it? What percentage could it be? They look at events and the resources it takes to put on events. What is it at now? What could it potentially be? And all of these things are done being mindful about the local market again, and what's going on in the local market, and what will the local market support. So if, let's say, you have 4 funding streams right now, whatever those are,
Right.
and 1 or 2 of those, are not going to really move. You're not going to be able to move the needle much on them, regardless of how much resources you put into it, whether it be time, talent, or treasure. They're just not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So you want to introduce a new lane, a new revenue source for the organization. You need to understand the talent within your organization to support that lane. You need to understand the bandwidth of the team to support that new lane. And you need to have some market awareness. What is your community going to support as you consider that new lane?
Yeah, I love that you said this, and I really appreciate, if we were talking about the for-profit world and we're selling men's ties or handbags or cars, we would have these same conversations. We would talk about market share. We would talk about the community. We would talk about the competitive set. Is the dog shelter across town competing with us and doing the same things, right? I mean, this is a reality, and this is a conversation that we need to have that I think we don't often have in the nonprofit sector, right?
Well, sometimes folks get caught up in their own creativity, if you will.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so they move forward because, oh, look, it's got a cool title. It's going to be in a cool location. And I'm using an event as an example, of course, in this. A good example here in my local community, which is very event heavy and gala heavy, but it's all about pickleball.
Really?
And we have a beautiful new indoor pickleball facility. 20 courts. I don't know. I might be exaggerating. I may not be. It may be 40. I can't remember. But a beautiful new indoor pickleball facility with a great restaurant. And so I'm already hearing the conversations around, well, who's going to have the first pickleball tournament, and and what is that going to look like? So, and that's smart, only because right now, that's a big trend in our community, and they'll definitely get folks to sign up, whoever does it first and does it the best.
Right. Well, I love that you brought that up, Tony, because that is the perfect example of how the marketplace should really inform some of our decisions, and then throwing it into this mix, understanding what this looks like. I also really value your point about leading from the development team. All too often, and I've sat on boards that did this, where the board dictated this mix. And then they're like, okay, development, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Go ahead and, execute this. And it's just brutal, right? Because you're getting people the expectation that they're going to achieve all this when they had no voice in formulating the plan. And that's just, to me, a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, well, I think, good leadership 101 tells us that when you have buy-in from the start, you're destined for success much earlier than if you don't.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get on to this issue of reporting out so we know what we're doing in scenario planning. We've been talking a lot about this with some of our other guests. Scenario planning seems to be really a hot topic in the context of this mix and these revenue streams. What does that look like to you? Is it just like we lose the funding, or we get as my mother would call it, a lagniappe? Something just falls, from the heavens, and there's a huge check in the mailbox, right? I mean, it's not all bad news, right?
No, it's not necessarily all bad news at all. So reporting out status, again, depends on your organization, your organizational norms. Are you reporting to the board? Is the development team reporting to the board? Or is the CEO or executive director the one reporting to the board? Are you creating a dashboard? And then board members and team leaders can just go in and look at the dashboard and get their updates whenever they want. So again, it just depends on kind of what the norms look like there. Scenario planning is something that is really important when you're putting together the plan, I believe, because you need to think about, okay, and I think scenario planning is really critical as you benchmark your success. And what I mean by that is, so we're going to go down this lane. Here's our scenario planning is that our expectation is that, the water is going to be calm, it's smooth sailing, and we're going to get there with no problem. But along the way, we're going to benchmark this quarterly or monthly or whatever is appropriate for that initiative. And so part of your scenario planning tells you that at benchmark 2 or benchmark 3, we may have to pivot.
Gotcha.
I think that's what our scenario planning in many cases tells us, is that at whatever point we may have to pivot. And if we do have to pivot, then what does that scenario look like?
Right.
If we pivot left or we pivot right. So that's how I look at the scenario planning.
And I appreciate you kind of giving us a lens for what the process looks like and what the end result should be. Because I think for a lot of folks, this is being driven by their financial teams, or sometimes even their auditors, that more of that financial leadership. And it seems extremely daunting, but I love the way you kind of rolled it out and made it a lot more achievable. This is one of those things, gosh, new things don't always come down the pike. I think a lot of times it's just refreshed things. But to me, Tony, scenario planning got a real bum rap because of the pandemic. Because I heard more and more people say, well, I couldn't have even imagined a pandemic. So why would I do this, right? Versus saying, okay, but maybe it's a huge increase in rent, or a huge increase in utilities, or you lose a major donor or grant. I mean, I think it can be, I don't want to use the word mundane, but it can be more realistic things that are going on with that revenue mix that will help protect you, so that you're not just like, holy moly, what do we do? And you can't get out of bed, because that's no way to live. Okay.
And you could also think of that scenario planning as kind of, thinking about risk mitigation, and, like you said, what happens if we lose 50% of our revenue? What does that look like?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just really imperative. Okay, let's go on to the revenue concentration ratio. Sometimes you see this called RCR formula, and it's really a way for you as an organization to look at where your funding, your revenue, your
Mhm.
revenue streams lay.
Mhm.
And that if they are out of whack, too high. And so if you do this, you look at if you're a healthy, risky, or vulnerable.
Mhm.
Healthy would be, you're around 30%. That means you don't have anything over that's like super whacked out, like, oh my gosh, 75% of our work or 80% is coming in from grants. But I think this is a really good exercise to be doing and reporting out to the board. Tony, it also makes me think too that we're going to have to educate our board and even our financial teams and development about this process, because most of them probably haven't seen this.
No, and it's simple math, right? I was looking at my copy of the book. I was looking to see if we had said super whacked out in the chapter. I think we missed a huge opportunity there, Julia.
That could be book number 2, my friend.
There you go. But it's and usually, I'm the first one to say my math isn't mathing today. But this is a really easy way to determine, where those different lanes of revenue rest in terms of the percentage of the pie. A really, really simple exercise that tells you a lot.
It does tell you a lot. And I think it's for me, when I look at the RCR formula, it helps remind me that it's not all just about the egg. It's about the basket. It's about that whole look at our revenue. And it's so easy to chase the unicorn. It's so easy to think, if I just get that rich, rich, rich donor, all my problems will be solved. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. Not in many scenarios.
No, not in many scenarios. Well, this has just been a really cool conversation. We already had a couple folks chime in. One, my favorite, said their book just arrived, The Architecture of Fundraising, and they can't wait to dig in. So we are really, really appreciative of that. And we hope that you let us know what you think. The Architecture of Fundraising. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. And Tony and I are really proud of it. And so we invite you to share that journey with us. And if you have questions, reach out. You can connect with us at info@americannonprofitacademy.com. Hint, hint, that's the email box of our executive producer. So go ahead and ask away. And we would love to know what you're thinking. Again, we have amazing partners that are with us. Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Crescent Cares, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, of course us, Fundraisers Friday, and JMT Consulting. These are the folks that join us day in and day out. Hey, Tony, always a pleasure to see you. You're going to have a busy weekend. I can just tell, because I know what part of the country you're in, and this is a busy time for you all, isn't it?
It is. Well, I think everyone will be on their sofas or bellied up at a bar this weekend because it's Super Bowl weekend.
Yep, absolutely. And, the NFL will be really promoting their Walter Payton Player of the Year, which is a huge connection to the nonprofit sector. And there's just so much going on. So many Super Bowl events have a philanthropic piece, right? A benefactor relationship. So yeah, there's a lot going on this weekend.
It's part of their corporate social responsibility.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Hey, everybody, as we end each and every episode of the Nonprofit Show, we leave you with this profound message. And it goes like this: stay well so you can do well. Thank you, my friend.
Have a great day. Oh, my throat got so scratchy. I coughed